No spin, no bias, no censorship. I'm Dan Wootton. This is Outspoken episode number 302. And the MSM has gone to battle with itself over a growing acceptance in the country that mass deportations are a necessity. With ITV going into full-blown civil war after Rylan Clark spoke out and his fellow presenters hit back.
The hotel. Here's that are struggling.
But of course, Rylan is right, especially after the Home Office argued in court today that the rights of illegal migrants being housed at the Bell Hotel in Epping trumps the rights of Essex locals being sexually attacked and molested by those staying in the hotel. Meanwhile, the despicable and dishonest woke ITV channel has been plunged into a fake news crisis after host Tom Bradby wrongly described the anti-Trump trans church shooter in Minneapolis as far-right.
The assailant appears to have been attracted to far-right ideology, including apparent signs of racism and anti-Semitism.
But centre-right MSM outlets have had enough.
Just take it off them and give it to some, low-life scumbags who don't want to work, and maybe some migrants. Brilliant. Give the bloody twat a Nobel Peace Prize. Who cares?
So what the growing denialism of our MSM and ITV turning on Rylan Clark really says about the perilous state of slippery Starmer's Britain in my digest next. And then I'm delighted to say that joining Outspoken for the first time is Dominic Frisby, one of my favourite comedians in the world, also author of the brand new book. We see it there. We see it there. He knows how to do this whole PR thing. It is released today. The Secret History of Gold, Myth, Money, Politics and Power. Also coming up on the show today, after Elon Musk's endorsement yesterday, Tommy Robinson provides full-throttled backing of Advance UK while launching a stinging new attack on Mr Flip Flop, that's his nickname, for Nigel Farage. And two ex-GB News co-presenters, Albiam Ancona and Darren Grimes, they launched the show, the Saturday 5 together, are in an extraordinary race war which has seen the police called in. I'm going to take you through that. It is quite a story. Then, in the uncancelled after show on Substack, this is a biggie today. Princess Diana was murdered and Prince Harry agrees. That is the astonishing claim from Tom Sykes, European editor-at-large of the Daily Beast, one of the top royal reporters in the world. He is now author of the brilliant new Substack, The Royalist. He is going to join me to reveal his theory. It really is quite something. Very, very well researched. I want you to come in with an open mind. Please do sign up to watch on my Substack, www.outspoken.live. It's also the last Greatest Britain and Union Jackass reveal of the week. You can vote in the live chat on YouTube now, and then our winners will go head-to-head to be named the worst Britain in the world this week, straight after the show today. We announce that tomorrow. But here are your final nominees for the week. Tom Bradby, who we just saw, nominated by Darren Donaldson for calling the trans-Catholic church shooter far-right. The MSM is already dead, Darren says. Nadia Sawala, nominated by ScottFly232. Clear retaliation, he says, against Rylan's common sense, levelling the woke back out on ITV, woke damage control. And Ed Davey, nominated by Drew59Blue. If you have no policies, you ride a hobby horse around a garden for publicity, you even disrespect your sovereign by refusing to attend a state backward, again for publicity. Don't forget the clown Ed Davey, who says his conscience won't let him attend, shafted our own postmasters. Whoa, 3 really good choices there. Have no idea how this one will go, so get voting in the live chat on YouTube, the results and your comments at the end of the show, so do stay with us. But now, let's go. It's astonishing that the proclamation of a light entertainment favourite on daytime TV should cause such a meltdown amongst Britain's flailing and fragile elite class, and even, I can reveal today, prompt a civil war at woke ITV, that increasingly out-of-touch and hard-left broadcaster where he works. Indeed, what Rylan Clark said on This Morning yesterday was what the vast majority of the British public think. Now, do you have a problem with what Rylan had to say? I'd argue it's no wonder he feels the way that he does. I mean, most ordinary people feel that way, especially, by the way, after the Home Office in court today argued that the rights of illegal migrants being housed at the Bell Hotel in Epping trump the rights of Essex locals being sexually attacked and molested by those illegals staying in the hotel. But after that Rylan clip went viral, Alex posted, "Own up. Who had Rylan spitting immigration facts on Good Morning on their bingo card for 2025? The way they're looking at him, literally willing him to shut up, is absolutely priceless. The Overton window has shifted to the right. Can you imagine an ITV presenter saying this a few years ago?" But perhaps with some sense of confidence, Patriotic Nation predicted that's his TV career down the shitter. As Tommy Robinson put it, Rylan speaking the most common sense ever spoken on ITV's This Morning. You just know the communist cult will be typing in complaints because his facts hurt their feelings. Andrew Tate added, "I don't know Rylan, and I'm sure he doesn't want me sticking up for him, but he's right. Watch."
And when somebody points out the very obvious point that anyone with a brain is thinking, that you can't keep letting in people to take more of the native people's money, the native people who've been brainwashed by the media then attack this person. Like, this is suicidal. You can't even help these people. If you had somebody in the UK to fix the mess, they think he's the bad guy. England has lost its mind. The population has lost its mind. There's a bunch of idiot white people sitting around begging to be replaced, begging to pay taxes, to pay for other people from another nation who speak another language and have no interest in adding to your society to live. And when you point this out, you're somehow, what, racist? You want to call these people racist? I'm brown, bro. You white people have lost your fucking minds. Your country is going to be gone in 10 years from now. I saw it 10 years ago. And if you point any of this out, you're attacked. And you know what's funny? When you're attacked, you're not attacked online by the brown people. You're attacked by the other white people who are begging for extinction.
And I have to admit, Andrew Tate has been completely right. Because predictably, the white woke left have piled on Rylan Clark and are attempting to get him cancelled. Now, heart of that battle actually took place at ITV, where there is a full-on civil war, and it kicked off on Loose Women. Now, this is the show that follows This Morning. And first, just minutes after Rylan Clark had made his comments, in response, Nadia Sawalha went. Then today, on the same show, a woman who used to be in the vocal harmony group Eternal tried to make national treasure Gloria Honeyford appear like some sort of far-right racist.
My concern is like Nigel Farage is sort of stoking up people that have racist views. That's my only concern.
It's what a lot of people want to hear, though. That's the point.
Glow, I find that quite difficult to take on board. There are two sides to this argument.
Well, singer from Eternal, you might find it difficult to take on board, but it's how we all feel. And if your daughter was sexually molested by one of those illegal migrants staying at a hotel, then you might feel differently. But look, it was, as Andrew Tate predicted, the white woke lefties who came for Rylan Clark, like full-time troll Super Tansky, you know, Carol Vorderman's best friend, who wrote, "I hope Rylan Clark is prepared for the fascistic reform fuckers that he's spouting disinformation for on national TV to take away gay rights, because that will be next when they're done scapegoating immigrants as a way to try and force us out of the ECHR. What an idiot." No, Supertansky, you are the idiot, love. With David Bull, Darren Grimes, and hundreds more, I can tell you right now, Reform is actually the gayest party in the UK. But it didn't stop the left-wing gays coming for Rylan. Queer academic, that's his description of himself. Thomas Willett wrote, "This is deeply irresponsible rhetoric. The falsehoods Rylan is spreading are designed to vilify all immigrants, irrespective of their settlement status. Broadcasters have a duty to uphold the truth. And on this occasion, both Rylan and ITV have fallen short of that responsibility." Then there was pride in Labour snob Jamie Strudwick, who sneered, Rylan Clark isn't a far-right hooligan, he's just deeply, deeply stupid. And anybody who didn't realise that before today needs a reality check. We need to stop giving stupid, uneducated people major platforms. It's that simple. Then Narinder Kaur demanded an apology, writing, do better, Rylan. Apologise and stop cosplaying fascist and racist narratives putting targets on brown and black communities. How dare you? And using the fact your mum was looked after ever so well by ethnic minority staff as some sort of cushion to hateful rhetoric. Horrible. Watch.
The message for Nigel Farage. Sorry, Rylan Clark. I get the two mixed up these days. Seriously, Rylan, I've met you before, liked you. But your little outburst on this morning was disgusting, despicable. You can do better. And don't you dare wrap it up as, oh, well, it's all unfair. Because if you wanted to talk about unfairness, you could have talked about billionaires not paying their taxes. You could have talked about corrupt politicians. You could have talked about a multitude of sins of the Tory government of the past 14 years. But no, you decided to wake up and punch down on vulnerable people who are drowning in the sea, trying to get desperate, trying to get to this country, and you wrapped it up as some kind of luxury holiday they're on. It's disgusting. Who do you think you are, seriously? And then you started to kind of backtrack and said, well, actually, we like legal migrants. They looked after my mum so well. My parents were legal migrants. I know plenty of legal migrants, and they don't appreciate that you thought that that's okay, because we're at targets right now. Black and brown communities right now, we're targets. There's a target on our back. 2 Sikh men have been attacked. A restaurant in a suspected racial aggravated attack. And all you can talk about is, well, we don't mind them. Shut up. Seriously, do better.
So sure enough, that sort of left-wing backlash did actually prompt a slight rollback from Rylan Clark, who posted on his various social media platforms, you can be pro-immigration and against illegal routes. You can support trans people and have the utmost respect for women. You can be heterosexual and still support gay rights. The list continues. Stop with this putting everyone in a box exercise and maybe have conversations instead of shouting on Twitter. But it still went down as a bit of an Overton shifting moment, with Paul Joseph Watson pointing out quite a bold statement for such a normie TV show. Things are changing fast. Although I have to say, and I was disgusted when I saw this last night, ITV quickly disgraced itself, with the boss of its hard left flagship news broadcast, Tom Bradby, ludicrously suggesting the trans anti-Trump church shooter in Minneapolis was far right. Now, I'm not even joking about this. Watch.
Even by the standards we've very sadly grown used to, the video apparently recorded by the assailant behind the latest school shooting in Minneapolis was utterly chilling. 2 children were killed, one aged 10, one aged 8, and many more injured. The assailant appears to have been attracted to far-right ideology, including apparent signs of racism and anti-Semitism. Rohit and Robert will explain.
Bullshit, you are despicable, Tom Bradby and woke ITV. So, I mean, when you look at all of these examples, it feels like our raging media is at a tipping point. Some continue to exist in their ludicrous bubble, the loose women, Tom Bradby, the Rylan Clark haters. Others are venturing into the real world. I mean, can you believe even Sly News seemed to acknowledge the issue of demographics contributing to the destruction of Bournemouth yesterday? Watch this.
A snapshot of Britain in the 80s. Beachgoers in the seaside town of Bournemouth, a place which has always been a magnet for holidaymakers and seasonal workers. Fast forward to the final days of this summer and the change is undeniable. In the Bournemouth area between the 2011 and 2021 censuses, the non-British born population went up by 47% and immigration everywhere has risen significantly since then. On the seafront, we find immigration is something white British people want to talk about, but not openly.
Okay, interesting. I'll always give credit where credit's due. But then on the same day, we still have its woke presenters making idiotic arguments on air like this.
But there's one use of language that I heard Zia Youssef use today. I think Nigel Farage used it as well during the speech.
Yeah.
This idea of talking about fighting-age men coming over here, you know how loaded that is. You know what that suggests.
You know the countries they're coming from?
Let me finish the point before you answer.
Yeah.
It's indicative of this idea of invasion. I mean, and Ellie Chowns, actually, not to quote her all the time, but she talked about, when we talk about working-age men, which actually you used earlier, you said that people coming here who want to work, that is something different. So why use this fighting age over working age?
I'll tell you why. Because the places that most of these people are coming from, if you look at the countries from which they're arriving, these are countries where there is a state of war. It is not their women. I was brought up to believe that if there is danger, you make sure the women and children are in safety first. In this instance, it's the young men who want to get to safety first. And frankly, they have grown up in an era of warfare with a different culture, with a different attitude towards women. And yes, they are of fighting age, because you can't tell me.
So you don't seem to want to step away from that, do you?
No.
Even though you know what it's suggesting.
I know exactly what it means, and but we feel there have been cases of people who've come on those boats, who have been arrested, alleged right now because they've not been convicted, of terrorist offences. So yeah, fighting age.
And yes, Sly News, we are in danger. I want to show you the mainstream media in Ireland, who actually did a very good job, this is brilliant, of exposing a so-called asylum seeker for being a total liar.
5 months now.
Okay, and what brought you to Ireland?
Yeah, we are asylum seekers.
Okay, so you're fleeing war.
Excuse me?
Are you fleeing war?
Yeah, prosecution.
Prosecution?
Yeah.
Where?
Nigeria.
There's war in Nigeria?
No, it's a sexuality thing.
Sexuality?
Yeah.
Sorry, I don't understand.
Where I come from, if you are bisexual or homosexual, you get killed. So
you're gay?
Yeah, you have to take off, yes.
Okay. And how are you finding Letterkenny? Are you settling in well?
Oh, lovely.
Okay. Are you working?
Not yet, still looking for.
And where are you staying?
It's just beside the McGettigans over there.
And all paid for? All sorted by the government?
Government, yes.
Great government.
Oh, fantastic. This is the land of Tien and Og.
1,000 welcomes.
Yes, Kukulin said come and we're here.
And you're out on a Saturday night?
Oh, but of course, we're going to have fun out there.
You're happy in Ireland?
This is airing.
And have you got family at home?
Oh, yes, I do.
So what have you got at home?
My wife and 2 kids, 2 sons.
Your wife and 2 sons?
Yeah, the mighty Hercules and the mighty Spartacus.
But you just said you were gay.
No?
Did you hear that? Earlier on in the interview, he says... So you've got to laugh or you'd cry. He says he's ticked the box to stay in Ireland because he's gay or bisexual, can't go back to Nigeria. Back at home in Nigeria, his wife and children. I understand the frustration of Mike Graham on Talk TV, who just lost the plot at Torsten Bell, the Labour loser who's about to destroy our economy even more.
Him out. And if he's that clever, you know, let's see what he's actually come up with. What has he actually done that makes him clever? What's he done that makes him clever? Sorry, I'm asking you.
I tell you who he worked for. He ran the Resolution Foundation.
So, what's that about?
It's about raising taxes.
Right. So, that makes him how does that make him clever? You know, the guy's a moron. You know, he came up with the headstone. You know, retire now. Don't even bother going anywhere near the rest of the human race because you're a complete bloody moron.
Right.
You know, I'd like to have him sitting here where you're sitting, and I know that you might have to defend these people.
I'm not defending him. I'm not defending him.
But, you know, you ran the Resolution Foundation where they went, let's just raise a load of taxes and anybody who makes any money, just take it all off them and give it to some, you know, low-life scumbags who don't want to work and maybe some migrants. Brilliant. You know, give the bloody twat a Nobel Peace Prize. Who cares? Right? I'm sorry. I'm in a bad mood. Sorry about the word twat. I didn't mean to say that. It came out wrong. I wanted to say twit. There's another word because of W and ends in cur. I also wanted to say, but that's why I went with twat. Anyway, sorry. I know it's early. 6:51. Sorry about that.
Right. Torsten Bell.
What's good about Torsten Bell? End. Anything else?
No.
Sorry.
And Theo Usherwood, that MSM shill, he just can't deal with it. Mike Graham's frustration there is the frustration that we all feel. And what's so interesting is that, as ever, it's Americans who are waking up first to the MSM's tactics here. Case in point, as Tommy Robinson pointed out, watch as Patrick Bet-David realises what we're up against in the UK on his show. The legacy media, in cahoots with the government, had the Minect app banned from Instagram for a year after pressuring Meta. Why? Because they allowed me on. The Times tried to set me up and failed as usual. What they've done to Minect is exactly what they did with my social medias. They pressurized them to ban me. And here's how Patrick Bet-David plans to fight back.
When we had Tommy Robinson on Minect, story came out from the Times. I don't know if you have the story, Rob. Type in the Times. The Times could type in Tommy Robinson, the Times, and Minect, okay? So they did a massive story, the Times, okay, with the story. They came, I don't know if people know this or not, Instagram blocked the Minect account from being able to run ads for a year because of this Times story. Tommy Robinson charging $20 a minute out of his personal coach to the far right, the self-styled anti-Islam activist, and this is from UK. They reached out directly to Facebook to have this happen on Minette. Go a little bit lower, Rob, if you can go through it. Now, obviously, our lawyers reached out. Everything's getting squared away. But if you go a little bit lower, the attacks they created a fake account on Minette to ask him questions and videos. And if you watch every single one of the videos, there is nothing that he says that's anything major. Our lawyers watch it. Everybody watch it. Go all the way down, and he talks about me and Patrick Bet-David, the founder of Minect, and he's doing this. They're sharing all the Minects publicly, right? Okay. So the UK woke audience wants to get you canceled, okay?
Yes, they do. And this is what we're having to put up with. But revolution is in the air. For example, even though the British Fashion Corporation took his announcement very seriously, far more people, and I think this is the way to deal with it, are just laughing out loud at the Liberal Democrat leader, that utter clown Ed Davey, for boycotting Donald Trump's state dinner next month, as if the US president would even know or care who he is. Watch.
We can't allow him to leave our country without him realizing we believe it is his responsibility to stop this.
The U.S. will take over the Gaza Strip, and we will do a job with it, too.
I don't know how they could want to stay. It's a demolition site.
Well, you know how I feel about the Gaza Strip. I think it's an incredible piece of important real estate.
I never thought I'd have to make this decision. Next month, Donald Trump will come to the UK for a state banquet. I've been invited, but my wife and I won't be going. It's an enormous honour to be invited by the King, who I have huge respect for. But it's only by not attending that I get the opportunity to make this case. The people of Gaza are starving. Just last week, the UN-backed IPC declared an entirely man-made famine in Gaza City. Children are dying. Hostages are still being held. And Donald Trump is the only man who can stop this.
I'm going to laugh at him. I'm going to laugh at him. And that's what we deserve to do. Now, Dominic Frisby is here. He is the comedian. He is the author of the brand new book, The Secret History of Gold, Myth, Money, Politics, and Power. Dominic Frisby, so great to have you on Outspoken for the first time. And of course, we're going to be talking much more about your book and your career later in the show. But first to the news, Dominic. I mean, do you feel for Rylan Clark, this light entertainment presenter who's spoken what pretty much everyone in Essex thinks, and all of a sudden it's been brutally cancelled by the left?
Yes, I do feel for him, Dan. And this is the problem that so many people who work in the media face, is that on the one hand, they have their principles, and on the other hand, they have their career. And often the two are aligned, but often they're not aligned. And for a lot of people that work in the media, actors, presenters, those kind of things, often their principles are their career. And so their principles will be whatever it needs to be to further their career. But then I just think more and more people are just starting to say what they think, and the narrative is starting to fall apart. And may I just say, Dan, just watching what you were doing in the first 10 or 15 minutes of the show, one of the problems I think we have in this country is that we have successive governments who are terrified of the media. And so they're so scared of the media that effectively they were governed by the media. So it's just brilliant to see somebody doing what you're doing, which is, rather than holding politicians or whatever, you're holding the media to account. Because if there's one thing that needs reform, it really is the media, and it is so biased. And it's just so good to see somebody holding it to an account and doing
It's
what you're doing.
something that we have never done in the United Kingdom. No one has ever put the mainstream media on notice. And I did when I was at GB News. And I believe it was a big part of my cancellation. It was why they were so desperate to get me off air, because since I've left, GB News won't even allow its presenters now. I mean, we'll talk about them later, but won't even allow their presenters now to use nicknames like, for example, Sly News, because they want to be part of that media establishment. And that's a big problem. I mean, I was literally gobsmacked yesterday, Dominic, when I saw Tom Bradby, because I'd been following what happened in Minneapolis. It happened just before we went on air yesterday. Then I watched this most horrendous, deranged video, the sort of manifesto from the trans shooter, clearly mentally ill. And I believe that being trans is a mental illness. But to see Tom Bradby in the introduction to the news somehow try and link this to the far right. I mean, the guy had literally written on one of his guns he wanted to kill Donald Trump. I mean, what is far right at all about this trans dude?
Well, I wrote a song about this, and Elon Musk retweeted it, and it's called "We're All Far Right Now."
And I love it.
And you know, it had something like 50 million views just on Twitter, and another 10 million elsewhere. Million views. That's, you know, as more people than there are in England. That's a lot of views, and so the message clearly chimed, and it's just reached the point. Is I don't think we've become more far right. It's just the definition of what is far right is just, it's like a magical spell word. It's just a way of smearing people, and literally everything now, if you don't agree with it, it's far right. But the really dangerous thing here is, if all this stuff does not get sorted soon, then everyone will get really far right. Do you see? I mean, genuinely far right, which is why we have to deal with it now.
Indeed, very, very true. But of course, with this almost warning shot of what has happened to Rylan Clark, I think it's the left saying, don't step out of line. Don't step out of line, mainstream media presenters or line to entertainment celebrities. Don't say what you think, because if you do, we're coming for you. Breaking today, Elon Musk has sent another clear message that it's Ben Habib and Advance UK, who he believes is the future of politics in the United Kingdom, rather than Nigel Farage. This is all over the mass deportation policy, which has obviously split the country, but also split the right. Habib posted on X that Reform UK's deportation policy amounts to stupidity. Elon Musk replied, exactly correct. A similar tragedy unfolded in the US back when anyone with a child was allowed entry in the spirit of being humanitarian. This unfortunately backfired, resulting in massive child trafficking, physical abuse, and rape, as evil criminals would snatch kids to use as a get into America free pass. And we know that Nigel Farage has done a major U-turn on this issue, which is maybe why why Elon Musk is a bit concerned. Watch.
It's a political impossibility to deport hundreds of thousands of people. We simply can't do it.
We can deport hundreds of thousands of people over the 5 years of a reform government. Thank you.
And what's interesting is we see the left-wing media here uniting with Elon Musk and Tommy Robinson on the right, with the Daily Mirror's front page, with the headline, "Don't believe a word he says. Flip Flop Farage, Reform leader, backtracks on deportation." The Daily Record was just as egregious. One is a pathetic, nasty little man who will not be missed. The other is Nigel Farage. But of course, the real story is the plummeting Labour approval rating from hero to care low. So with Reform UK surging in the polls as it is, indeed just today, its poll rating has now outstripped the Conservatives and Labour combined. Is there any point in a political force on the right? This is something that obviously really divides opinion. But Tommy Robinson has, in his words, been abundantly clear about why he has joined Reform UK. Advance UK, prompting Ben Habib to reply, "Thank you. The only way to save the United Kingdom is through Advance UK." And he explained ahead of the Uniting the Kingdom rally why he believes there needs to be a political movement to embrace the end of slippery Starmer.
We all need, as a movement, I've been saying it for years, we need a political home, a political voice for our movement. Of course, in the last election, we end up with Labour and a cabinet full of clowns. Everyone knows they're not for the working people. They're lining their own pockets and destroying our country faster than Karl Marx could have ever imagined. People have had enough. Look at what's happening now. Look at the revolution that's brewing across Britain. Even look at Raise the Flags campaign. Labour are finished. Keir Starmer is finished. They know it. They've lost a big chunk of the Muslim vote in the last election because they weren't marching often enough for Hamas. And they'll lose many more as people join Hezbollah, Corbyn's new Islamophilia party. And that's why the Labour Party wants 16-year-olds to be able to vote. It's going to backfire on them. The youth always rebel. Young people are smarter than Labour think.
But I know a lot of you will be asking, well, why, Tommy Robinson, is Reform UK not the answer?
And as for Reform, I've got to go there. Well, they were the only option for the last election. But they aren't who people think they are. Reform tells us Britain can take more immigrants. Net zero is their immigration policy. Net zero was their immigration policy, okay? That meant last year 500,000 British people left. They could, and their policy was to take 500,000 immigrants in. From where? Afghanistan, Somalia, Iraq, Iran, who knows where? They tell us we can't deport people entering the country illegally.
We're talking about hundreds of thousands of illegal immigrants are in Britain at the moment. Do you support deporting all of those people?
It's impossible to do. Literally impossible to do. For us, at the moment, it's a political impossibility.
But is it your ambition?
No. So it's pointless even going there.
Or did he change his position on that? Flip Flop Farage keeps changing his position. It's hard to keep up. They tell us we can't alienate Muslims because of the growing Muslim demographic. By 2050, they'll be superior to us. That's not objective, Nigel. Just stand up and be proud of Britain and stand up for British values. That's what we need to do.
We have a Muslim population in Britain growing by about 75% every 10 years. Right? That's just where we are. Mm-hmm. If we politically alienate the whole of Islam, we will lose.
We need to prevent the Islamic demographic getting to that point.
And of course, Tommy is very furious about the fact that his supporters were dismissed by Reform UK as that lot.
Nigel's words, there'll be more left-wing than the Tories by the next general election. They're OK with trans women, men, in women's prisons. And they're OK with digital ID. And that really is the end of our freedom.
What do you feel about ID cards, digital ID cards? Is that something that Reform UK would support?
Well, look, I personally don't have a problem with an ID card. You know, I don't see what the issue is. We can all be tracked now if somebody wants to track us.
And we're all discarded as that lot. That's what annoys me. Our entire movement, that lot. We don't want anything to do with that lot.
Tommy Robinson, people have been protesting in his name. What do you make of Tommy Robinson? Is he a good guy in your eyes?
No. All of that lot, we have nothing to do with them.
Even the protesters who have got banners up saying two-tier Keir, you agree with them on the policing and justice?
We agree with ourselves. I'm not aligning ourselves with Tommy Robinson's lot in any shape.
All right.
Then there's the issue of Zia Youssef.
And we've all watched with interest as Zia Youssef comes and goes at Reform. On some days he appears to be running the whole show. And then he's busy lighting fires that no one else seems to know what to do about. The whole thing is a mess. But finally now, and it's needed because otherwise Reform won't budge on their policies, there is now an alternative to all other parties. That is Advance UK, led by Ben Habib. It's the only party that stands unconditionally for free speech. It's the only party that is proud of our Christian traditions, culture and values. It stands for the British people. Strong borders, no two-tier justice. And if we want better government, we're going to have to vote for it. There were nearly 20 million people in the last general election who could have voted but didn't vote. That's twice as many people as voted for Labour, didn't vote. So that's what we need to, as a cultural movement and as a political movement, reach out to the non-voters, the working class, the forgotten, the neglected people.
Now, Rupert Lowe, the leader of Restore Britain, he is also pushing the anti-Zia Yusuf message increasingly hard, not even using his chosen name.
Nigel Farage has stolen your work?
I don't think he's stolen my work, but I think he's a follower, not a leader. And whilst I spent a lot of time working with him, and I think I played my part in building up Reform support, but once we'd won the argument and we were going to win the election, I wanted to know what the plan was, where the shadow cabinet was, where the policy was, where the structure and where the plan was. And I think people can sort of see that Nigel's making it up as he goes along. And, you know, bringing in people like Mohammed Zia-Ruddin Yusuf as chairman of Reform, I mean, he'd done nothing to build Reform till Nigel brought him in. And at the end of the day, bringing free radicals into a party which has effectively relied on loyalty and long service of people like myself, both in the Brexit Party. Before that, I obviously did it in different places, in the Referendum Party. Then I did a lot for Vote Leave, and then obviously the Brexit Party. I think some credit has to go to Richard Tice. He and people like myself and Ben Habib kept it going when Nigel went off to, in his own words, make money. So, I don't really want to divide what I call common sense thought, but equally, I don't want to see somebody who isn't going to deliver for the people elected as our next Prime Minister. I mean, Boris failed us, and I think there are some very similar characteristics between Boris Johnson and Nigel Farage, and we need serious leadership that's this time going to deliver.
But Farage's number one attack dog, Matt Goodwin, he has a very different view. He's actually authored a letter to what he describes as the online right and Elon Musk, writing, "So your plan to save Britain is not to go with the anti-establishment party that is currently leading the national polls, not to go with the only anti-establishment politician who has won 2 nationwide elections with 2 different parties, who is known in every household in this country, who took Brexit from obscurity and turned it into political reality, who delivered the biggest constitutional shake-up in this country since the Reformation, who opposed mass immigration before it went mainstream, who is now promising to do the very same thing with leaving the ECHR and deportations, who is literally promising to roll back the entire post-war asylum regime, who just became the first person in British history to finish ahead of Labour and the Tories at an entire set of local elections, and who is just as successful in Labour areas as Tory ones, but instead go with someone who 99.9% of British people have never heard of, a party that 99% of British people have never heard of, and a movement that appears to have zero charisma and zero appeal to Middle England, all in the hope of smashing a formidable 2-party system in 3 or 4 years. Is that the plan? Are you serious? Are you really going to devote your life to an electoral cul-de-sac and a political pipe dream? Because from where I am standing, there appear to be an awful lot of people who care much more about their ego than the country, who are incredibly poor students of British politics, and who are about to waste an awful lot of energy, money, and time that could actually go on saving their country." Now, Basil the Great responded robustly to Matt Goodwin, asking him, "We could equally ask you while you're still supporting them. The purchasing of political positions, Scottish nationalists in the party, the lying to members, lack of democracy, telling people not to protest, saying mass deportations is impossible, Islam must be accommodated, slandering Tommy Robinson, trying to get Rupert Lowe incarcerated, letting down grooming gang victims, men and women's prison, slandering Suella Braverman and Robert Jenrick, a 3.5-page deportation policy after how long of waiting, and it barely touches the problem despite promising to deport all illegal migrants just months ago. It appears to just want to deport single childless men. For years, you rightly criticised the Tories for coasting on the idea of who else are you going to vote for? If you don't vote for us, you'll get Labour. Well, now Reform are doing exactly the same. It's simply not good enough, Matt. Goodwin replied, perfection does not exist in politics. You use what you have to correct the system. And now, Dominic Frisby is here. Dominic, where do you stand on this split on the right? Are you in the camp of like, Reform is the only hope, they've got this massive poll lead, okay, they might not be perfect, you know, but we've sort of got to back them? Or are you with Elon Musk, who's thinking about something with, I guess, much more moral purity?
I'm gonna answer that question by not answering it, because I haven't taken sides yet, and I'm watching what's going on, and I sympathise with both points of view. I've actually just finished Elon's biography, and you know, he's achieved what he's achieved by not compromising. He's almost autistic in his refusal to compromise about anything, and I think you can achieve things in business by doing that, but in politics, it's just that much harder. And there is that horrible expression, which I hate, politics is the art of the compromise. And I think, you know, Nigel is brilliant at positioning himself, and he's always gone as far, almost like as far as he can go without overstepping the mark. And that's how his political career's lasted as long. You know, they keep trying to cancel him, but they can't quite cancel him. And that's how he's had the longevity that he's had. And he's probably decided, you know, I think deep down, Nigel agrees with a lot of the stuff that Tommy says, but Nigel's having to sort of, tame himself, turn himself down a little bit in order to get elected, in order to negotiate the media that you're taking into account.
Though, Dominic, do you think he has to do that? Because this is where I split with Nigel. Like, Trump didn't do that. Trump went to war with the mainstream media. It didn't mean he wouldn't talk to them. He does talk to them. He talks to them far more than Joe Biden ever did. But he doesn't accept the way that they present the world. And I think Nigel thinking he can win over the British mainstream media is pretty naive, to be honest.
Well, maybe, but he also knows what the media can do to you and how they smear you and the power that the BBC still does. So I think it's a tactical decision by Nigel. And by the way, if you mentioned Trump there,
yes,
you know, Elon, you know, when in the falling out between Trump and Elon, I was team Elon, because I'm a small government guy, a low tax guy. I don't like to see government corruption. I don't like to see wasteful spending and all of that. You know, the American, you know, Trump is not going to shrink the state. It's going to increase. And, you know, he's going to print more money. He's going to debase the currency further. All these things are going to happen with Trump, which wouldn't have happened if Elon had been allowed to continue what he continued. And, you know, even though Trump winds people up, his views, he's just a sort of centre-right guy. He's not, maybe on immigration, he's pretty full on. But in other stuff, you know, he's not nearly as extreme as Elon was. So in the way that Trump played the game, I think there are more similarities between him and Nigel than there are between him and the sort of Tommy Robinson, Elon Musk side of things. So I get it. And I get the predicament, Nigel. You know, the view of the extreme side is that Nigel doesn't need to dampen himself down and turn the notches down. He needs to own it. And Nigel probably thinks he does need to. And that's the decision he's made. And, you know, I want to see Britain reformed, and I want to see an end to this mess. And the big risk is splitting the right ends that. But I you know, Tommy is full on. He's a purist, and you know, I get what he's saying. And he's one of these guys. He's early to everything. And when somebody's early to things, he gets accused of, you know, what Tommy was saying 10 years ago is now acceptable now.
Yes.
And so what Tommy's saying now will probably be acceptable in 5 or 10 years from now. So it's a very, very difficult predicament, and I'm watching it, and I haven't taken sides. And anyway, our electoral system's so rubbish. Where I live, South East London, Lewisham, you live in the same borough. It doesn't make any difference down who we vote for.
But that's another issue that I have. I mean, Reform UK are meant to be for genuine reform, you know, reform of the electoral system, reform of the House of Lords. And again, there are some hints that they might roll back on that too. So I think the jury's out. But I guess Where I think that, I mean, you called it the extreme side. I would say it's not the extreme side. I would say it's where the public is at. But let's say the online right. That seems to be where people like me are now put in this category. I think like Farage will describe me as a fringist. You know, the online right, it's that sort of category. I would actually argue we are the ones shifting the Overton window, because how on earth can you go from Farage saying, you know, mass deportations are impossible just 6 months ago to being at that event in front of the entire mainstream media, literally advocating for the exact policy that a few months ago you said was impossible? Well, what changed that? I believed the Overton window shift because of the independent media, because of Rupert Lowe, and critically, because of Elon Musk. So that's why it's particularly fascinating. Breaking right now, GB News hosts caught in a racism war as the police are called in. This is one of the most astonishing stories of the day, because if you're a fan of GB News, you will know that Darren Grimes, who has now been elected to the Reform UK board, and Albi Amankona, the head of Conservatives Against Racism, were actually the launch presenters together of this show on GB News, which has become a real success, called The Saturday Five. Now, at some point, there seems to have been a major falling out, because since leaving the broadcaster, things have become incredibly intense. And it exploded into the public domain with the cops called after this post from Darren Grimes, who wrote, "My brother in Scarborough for a bank holiday weekend away. I had to ask him if he was on a dinghy to Dover, but then I realised there are women and children on board." And Darren posted that with this short video. But that prompted Albi Amankona to go public, seemingly accusing Darren Grimes of racism, which resulted in a police inquiry. Albi Amankona wrote, "One of Reform UK's leading lights is posting a vid filmed by his brother of a black British family, including the kids, enjoying a day out and comparing them to illegals. I've always said I don't believe Nigel Farage is racist, but I believe some of his supporters are." Cue seemingly official interest, with Darren Grimes going on the attack, writing, "The police just called to say they've received allegations that I have been inciting racial hatred. I did no such thing, and the police themselves have said so. Shame on our disgusting media and Labour politicians for wasting police time in this way. They are the problem, not me." But of course, one of the problems that Reform UK has, and I accused them of this at the time, is that they have been responsible for the biggest waste of police time this year, the attempt to get Rupert Lowe locked up in prison. So the Restore Britain leader saw all of this going on and responded to Darren saying, "We wouldn't possibly want anyone in politics wasting police time, now would we?" But Dominic Frisby, I do have quite an issue with this, but I'm interested to know, because look, I'm friends with both Darren Grimes and Albi Amankona. I do not believe that Darren Grimes is a racist for a single second. And I would say to Albi Amankona, I think it's completely inappropriate to just throw around these terms and then almost lead to a pile-on. But can we just look at Darren's post on X specifically? Could you see anything racist about that? I mean, it's sort of a joke, isn't it?
It all depends. And this is one of the big, I think I know Darren and he's not racist. Okay. And I've also met Albi. I was on GB News with him a couple of times, and he's a nice guy. He's a sort of, it's very funny. And I think it's just a bit lazy. And so there's probably a bit of acrimony maybe there. There must be a bit of acrimony, and but it's just a lazy slur, and I'm tired of it. And I think one of the things that needs to happen is we need to redefine or define clearly what racism, what being racist actually is. And this is something Lawrence Fox tried to do with his court cases, because, you know, a joke or a sort of, a lazy remark or a not particularly funny remark, but an attempted joke or something by down, is not persecuting somebody on the grounds of their colour, which is what I think racism is, the actual persecution. And if it boils down to it, and I say this as someone I've got 2 mixed race kids, I think everybody, white, black, brown, is prejudiced. We are all prejudiced, some more than others, and we all make judgments about other people based on their appearance. Okay, and so that's their sex, their age, their race. We all make these judgments, and it's perfectly natural to do that. And the sooner we can accept the fact that it is natural to do that, and by doing that, that doesn't necessarily make you racist, rather than I want this group of people persecuted because these kind of people's, I do not like their race. That is racist. Okay, and there is a big difference. And so, if an old lady is a white old lady who's not used to black people, for example, gets a little bit nervous when a 6'4" black guy is walking down the street, that doesn't make her racist. That just makes her nervous.
Or even Rylan
you know what I mean?
Clark.
So we need to redefine what it is.
Well, of course, but even Rylan Clark on ITV's This Morning for simply suggesting that it's completely ludicrous that there are these illegal immigrants and we don't know where they've come from and they're staying in hotels that we're paying for, playing on iPads that we've given them. He's been described as racist for making that point.
How is that racist? This is the problem, because it's a terrible thing to be a genuine racist, to want somebody persecuted because of their race. That is a bad thing, and nobody wants that. And everyone knows once you have the label of racist attached to your name and to your appearance and to your reputation, it is a very difficult thing to recover from. And that is why people use it. It's a magic spell word. It's the equivalent of having somebody excommunicated in the Middle Ages. And that is why everyone's desperate to avoid it. And the whole thing has just got so stupid. And the sooner this conversation is we have clarity and agreement on what a racist actually is. And by the way, it's so damaging smearing somebody for racist. It can take years to recover from that slur, even if it was misplaced. When that slur is alleged to somebody and it ruins somebody's career, and then it turns out they weren't that thing, why is the person who issued the slur in the first place not held to account in
100%.
some way?
100%. But I think in a way, Dominic, that's why we almost need to not give a damn. All of us collectively. I mean, I don't give a damn now. It's like, call me far right, call me racist. Everyone knows that's nonsense. Everyone knows my history. Everyone knows I'm a completely reasonable person who agrees with pretty much the majority of this country. But I think we're seeing this more and more, because I wanted to play you an actual clip from GB News, Dominic. And this is Adam Brooks, who's a great guy, right? He's doing great stuff in the independent media world. Actually, I was the first person who put him on TV. I convinced him to go on TV. I think he is really one of the voices of the people. And Bill Rammell, who claims to be, a sort of Labour working class champion, is there on air accusing him of being far right. Watch this.
Being simplistic and wanting our borders secure makes me far right.
I want
wanting unknown men to go home and not be around our women and children is far right, is it, Bill?
The way that you advocate for it, yes.
Passionately. Like the people watching this show now, I want safety for our women and children. That does not make me far right.
That you represent the groundswell of the popular public.
Well, hang on.
What an
Bill.
arrogant thing to say. You represent about a third of the electorate in the body of Reform supporters.
Right, so
that's where you stand.
If you say that, that's about 10 million people. Probably.
Yeah.
So we're all far right?
I'm talking about you, Adam, and the views that you express.
I'm still,
are
Bill,
far right.
I'm still, with respect, I'm still waiting for one particular example, something he said which you think is far right. You said overall his stance on immigration is far right, but that's not good enough.
He plays fast and loose with statistics around immigration, which are utterly misleading.
I've schooled you completely on 3 or 4 of these shows.
The viewers about arrogance. You're the personification of arrogance.
Right. Okay. So, do you believe you represent more people in the UK than me? With your views?
Do you know?
Yes or no?
Yes, I think I do.
Hilarious.
Right, hilarious.
Labour aren't doing very well in the polls.
Is it? So add up the political support in opinion polls for the Labour Party, the Liberal Democrats and the Greens, and it's over half the population.
You are so naive and so in your bubble that you think, honestly...
No, you're in your bubble, mate.
Oh, my God.
Okay, Chloe, what's your thoughts?
Politics is not for you anymore. You're a dinosaur. You're a dinosaur in a political world, Bill. A dinosaur.
Represents just a less than
absolute dinosaur. Get in the real world like me and Chloe.
I live in the real world.
All I'm going to say is there used to be a time when it was completely normal and mainstream to think a country should have a border.
Exactly. And I love my flag.
That doesn't make you far right, and that's mostly sums up what Adam's views is that he's usually talking about the fact that we should have a border in this country and we should know who's coming in.
Dominic Frisby, your view on that claim from Bill Rammell?
Well, he was doing exactly what we was talking about, and so much of what he said was unsubstantiated, and he was just accusing him of being far right for articulating opinions that he didn't like. And we were talking about the racism thing before, and my song, We're All Far Right Now. The second verse of that song is We're All Racist Now. And it's just silly, the whole thing. And I have to say, I thought Adam absolutely annihilated him in that discussion. And the standard technique when you're being out-argued is just to talk over, to insult, to change the framing of the conversation and so on. And, you know, I think Adam's right when he called that guy a dinosaur.
Yeah, we are living in mad times, aren't we? Because I've got to show you this story, Dominic, which has just been broken by Guido Fawkes. I actually can't believe it, but this is true. This is not an April Fool's Day. The Essex County Council is offering support to staff unsettled by the St. George's or Union Jack flag. So let's get to this story, okay? Essex County Council offering support to its staff, encouraging them to reach out if the St. George's or Union flags that have been put up in recent days upset them. Alternatively, they could resign and hide indoors with the blinds shut. The council's Children and Families Senior Leadership Team sent an email to staff yesterday saying it was, quote, aware of the increasing visibility of St. George's and Union Jack flags displayed on road signs, bridges and trees in parts of Essex. While these symbols may hold different meanings for different people, we recognise that for many, particularly our colleagues of colour, they can evoke feelings of discomfort and be associated with anti-immigration rhetoric. The council encourages staff unsettled by or affected by what you're seeing to reach out, and offers for them to speak with their line manager, service manager, global majority leads, Antonia, assistant director or director. Oh my God. Oh my God. I mean, Dominic Frisby, seriously, we've gone mad. We've gone completely mad.
We have gone absolutely bananas. And I love Guido Fawkes, and I love the, he was at my book launch actually last night. And I love the stories that he exposes, and he just goes on and on, or that he and his team do go on and exposing these things. And it's just obvious, like, imagine if they were counselling for English people at the sight of a Palestinian flag. You know, this is how silly the whole thing has gone.
Totally.
And
although sometimes I feel I need it, or a trans flag.
Yeah. I actually feel upset. I call it the pedo flag. But anyway, I get upset every time I see
saw
it.
one of them on my street this week, Dominic. But, you know, I wanted to tear it down. I certainly didn't need counselling.
But it's ludicrous. But is your taxes are funding this?
Yes. Yes.
And that's what makes me despair. Like, if we were all taxed hardly anything and we could all keep our own money, and somebody wants to go off doing that, you know, funding that kind of stupidity with their own money, well, fine, it's your money, you do that. But when it's being done with public money, it just makes you go mad, particularly when we're all, you know, so hard up and times are so difficult. If we were able to actually keep more of what we earn and spend it ourselves on what we see fit, this stuff would not have the oxygen to breathe.
Do you understand why this raising the colours movement has become so important for patriots?
Mm-hmm. Because, you know, once upon a time, if you didn't like your leaders, you could rise up and revolt. But we can't do that now because the citizen is not armed and the state is. And so all we have is our voice. And this, this is our national flag. And I can't believe that putting up our national flag is considered offensive. That's how insane the whole thing has got. And it articulates what everyone is thinking and the anger everyone feels. But in also the fact that, for example, by putting a St. George's flag in a pothole gets the pothole fixed. You've seen that meme doing the rounds, I'm sure.
Oh my God, I know.
It just shows you it shows you the insanity of everything. And so not only is it a way of articulating what people are feeling, it exposes the ludicrous double standards and hypocrisy that we're living through.
Dominic Frisby, you are the author of this brand new book, The Secret History of Gold, Myth, Money, Politics and Power. Also now behind the #1 Substack for finance in the country. But what's really going to interest people, Dominic, is that obviously it's not necessarily something that people team up with what you're maybe most famous for, which is your comedy work and the fact that you were obviously one of the launch presenters, and this is how we got to know each other, of the GB News series Headliners. So can we kick off with that, Dominic? Because
sure,
obviously that's how we got to know each other. I thought you were doing a brilliant job on that show. And you were the first person cancelled, really, by GB News for comedy. And you could argue that the same thing then happened to Mark Steyn, Lawrence Fox, and then my good self. But I guess your case, because it never really exploded in the mainstream media, was something that went a little bit under the radar. But do you feel angry about your treatment, about the fact that the Free Speech channel actually got rid of you for a joke?
Well, yeah, I was a very popular presenter. I was doing very well. I actually got promoted at one point. They had me presenting the afternoon show when Alex Stewart couldn't do it, Alistair Stewart. And I remember I was doing it on Saturday afternoon, the day that Putin invaded Ukraine. So quite a big...
You're like, what have I got myself in for?
This was like my first day ever presenting a news story, and World War III's just begun. But, I quite enjoyed my time at GB News, and I don't blame them for doing what they did. I cracked a joke and, quoted out of context. It could have been misinterpreted and could have led to a lot of bad fallout, and so they figured it was best to just sort of quietly get rid of me, and I went along with that because I didn't really particularly want to all the media attention for what was essentially an innocuous remark. But anyway, that's what they did, and so I don't feel angry or bitter to them. I don't blame them. What I'm sort of slightly miffed about is that once they got rid of me, like for months and months, every time, because I'm like the only person in the UK who actually, I'm not the only person in the UK that owns Bitcoin, but every time the subject of Bitcoin comes on the news, they always get somebody that doesn't own Bitcoin to talk about it, and then they don't know what they're talking about it. And I was one of the sort of most articulate people about Bitcoin. And so every time there was a Bitcoin story, or a finance story or a tax story, GB News would phone me up and go, can you come and do on the program and do this? And yeah, sure, no problem. And then about an hour later, they were like, oh no, sorry, we can't have you on.
100%. 100%. I mean, this is something I have a real...
Sorry, say again?
Well, no, this is something I have a real problem with. Certainly in my own case, it's like if you leave that sort of weird cult, you're dead. And they don't want to acknowledge that you even exist. And I think that's actually, number one, it's unfair on people. Number two, it's not the real world. I mean, I got the first interview with Lucy Connolly, the freed political prisoner, last week here on Outspoken, and GP News didn't play 1 second from the interview. And I think it is a weird way that they act, because I think you can't deny that people like you, people like Lawrence Fox, people like Father Calvin Robinson, people like Andrew Neil, all of these departed people from GB News. Alex Phillips is another great example. We are part of the culture, but GB News, I guess, wants to pretend like you're dead.
Yeah, I suppose so. So they kind of disappeared me a bit, but you know, I think I'm destined for greater things, and I'm a comedian. I'm not really a news person, so I don't feel that bitter about it. I will say about GB News though, you know, they didn't need to disappear me like that, but that's fair enough. But what I always found when I worked there is there was no, like, I think GB News, with the funding it has a real opportunity to be something quite special. And there was no culture of excellence when I was there. Everything was like, just get it out, get it done. And every time you'd go, for example, on Headliners, the set, they go, well, we've just got this set just for the time being, we're going to change the set. And then 2 years later, they'd never changed the set. And so there was just never, you know, maybe it's because I'm too artistic or something, but I like to see things improved, and I like to see a culture of excellence. And it was always, you know, I'd think, I've got a really funny joke here and we could do this, and it'd be really funny. And it was always like, no, we just haven't got time. And so I always felt, you know, they've missed an opportunity to be, with the funding that they have and the backing that they have, they could have been, you know, extraordinary. And now they're just sort of quite good.
Yeah, no, it's something I had a massive issue with at the time. But look, the great thing is that you left, and then through one of those great moments of timing, Elon Musk goes massive on your song, which is just one of the funniest things. And by the way, I know the former Prime Minister Liz Truss, you're her favourite comedian too, because this
and I'm
song,
Nigel Farage's as well.
Yes, you are. We're all far right now, and it's very edgy, but it's absolutely brilliant because the lyrics sum up, I think, better than, because you know what it's like. Very often comedy, right, sums up the absurdity of a real life situation better than you ever can when you're trying to properly explain it on a show like this. And something about that song really resonated. And then once Elon Musk posted it, all of a sudden you've got this audience of tens of millions, bigger than any audience you ever had at GB News.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. And you know, I love making my song videos, and I've the last few months, because I've been finishing the book, I haven't made that many, but I've got 3 coming out over the next month, Dan, and I think they're the best 3 I've ever written. The next one I've got coming out is called I Am Replacing the Population. And we already uploaded it to YouTube, and we didn't even release it. We just uploaded it to get it ready for the release, and YouTube have already cancelled it.
No way!
They cancelled it even before it's come out. It's just like the algorithm just went, no, we're not having it.
Well, I was at the event. It was for the, what was it? The 25th anniversary, was it, of Guido Fawkes, where you performed?
Oh yeah. That was an error of judgment by me that time.
We're all far right now. What was it? Because Nigel Farage was in the audience, and obviously the lyrics of the song include Mussolini and Adolf Hitler, and the Daily Mirror almost tried to make out as if in some way this meant that Farage was endorsing a pro-Hitler comedian. It's like, you're missing the point.
Yeah, that was ludicrous. I could have, looking back, I could have probably, like, because I was absolutely storming the gig. Like, Dan Dukes, who's like Nigel Farage's number 2, was going, that was box office. I've never seen anything like it. It was box office right up until you did that last bit. And so I think I was enjoying the gig so much, I just maybe went a little bit too far. But, you know, these are somebody else saw that gig, Dan, a friend of mine who does the cartoons for Guido Fawkes, and he just said it was the best satirical gig he's ever seen by anyone. And it's not my job as a comedian to toe the line. It's my job to be the court jester and to push things as far as they could go. And I remember when I was doing that, Boris Johnson was like applauding, and he spat out his wine. And then his wife realised that he was being filmed and told him, she was literally going, stop laughing. You mustn't laugh at that. You mustn't laugh at that. Nigel, who's perhaps a bit wiser, sort of did this. And Liz Truss was just roaring with laughter. She came to the book launch actually yesterday.
And that's why we love her. That is why we love her. And indeed, look, we've got to talk about the very serious side of the economy. And it's interesting that you mentioned Liz Truss, because she provides quite a segue, actually. Because look at the cover of today's Spectator, for example. The coming crash, they report. Something's got to give. Our former colleague, Liam Halligan, who's also now launched a finance Substack, is very much saying that there is the potential for an IMF bailout. And it's interesting, isn't it, that, and again, this is why I think I talk about the terrible corruption of the mainstream media a lot, because unquestionably, although you're the expert, so you tell me, but unquestionably, I would say we're in a way worse spot than we were after Liz Truss's mini budget. Yet the mainstream media are acting as if all is okay with Rachel Reeves as she drives our economy into the cliff.
Well, the national finances are in grave, grave trouble. And in fact, you criticise the mainstream media. The mainstream media never talks about gold, and it never talks about Bitcoin. So this is just the financial press. If you look, Bitcoin is the most significant monetary invention for centuries. It's that big. And the FT, the Financial Times, which is supposed to be neutral, has it just keeps going, no, you mustn't buy Bitcoin, you mustn't buy Bitcoin. And it's cost its readers a fortune. It's cost its readers an absolute fortune, because Bitcoin doesn't correspond to the sort of government planning economist worldview. It's very much a bottom-up libertarian thing. And so, yeah, it's been suppressing gold. It's just as gold is, every time gold price goes up, the mainstream media just goes, oh, it's a bubble. And it's just so wrong. And so everything that's happening in the wars on free speech and all the other areas of discussion, it's going on in finance as well. And it's just always on the wrong side of the argument. It's incredible.
Well, yes.
But yeah, the UK national finances are in grave, grave trouble.
And actually, Rob Dix says of your book, your new book, which is out today, actually, The Secret History of Gold, understand the history of gold, and you start to see what politicians and central banks would rather you didn't. So is your argument, Dominic, that there is almost a cover-up going on? People don't really want the public to know?
I don't know if it's deliberate or if they're just stupid. And in the case of gold, I just think they're just stupid. But maybe it's deliberate. Sometimes I just think this is so stupid, it can only be deliberate. And the classic case, the example of this is the sale by Gordon Brown of our gold in 1999 at the bottom of the market. He did not need to sell the gold. He was under no pressure to do so. And China, all the gold bullion dealers that you talk to, China was on the other side of the trade. And I'll tell you something really significant. China has been reducing its holdings of US debt, of US bonds, for 10 years. 10 years, it's gradually owning less and less, and it's been increasing its holdings of gold. And I do a great lot of study into this. China's holdings of gold are at least 4 to 5 times more than it says they are. And it probably has twice the amount of gold that the US does. And remember, the dollar is the US reserve currency. Now, why is China buying all this gold? What are its plans? And it's the world's largest importer, it's the world's largest producer, and it doesn't export a single ounce. It's just, gold is just going to China, and gold is wealth. It's always had a role underpinning the financial system. Even now, when it's no longer official money, it's still the second largest holding by central banks after US dollars. And the US dollar holdings are coming down. And this is a story that I've actually audited the amount of gold that China has been importing and accumulating, and put it on a plate, and still the mainstream press doesn't report on it. And it is the biggest story in world finance. It is that significant, because it's like wealth is going to China. What are China's plans? Why is it accumulating all this gold? And at the same time, the UK, this is how stupid we are, we sold all that gold in 1999, and I was always very friendly with Andrew Feldman, who was head of the Conservative Party in the sort of Cameron Osborne era, and I was going, print the money and buy back the gold. It is so just print the money and buy it back. And Feldman was going, really? He just couldn't believe I was talking about it. And I was just going, it is such an important strategic asset, and we just don't own any. And we are now the second largest holder of US debt. The UK is, after Japan. You'd think China, with its huge economy, would hold more US bonds than we do. No, we hold more. So we're growing our holding of US bonds, and we've not accumulated any gold. And meanwhile, we've got quite a lot of Bitcoin that were confiscated, early on in Bitcoin's evolution. But what does the UK do? Rachel Reeves is talking about selling it. This incredibly important strategic asset, and the FCA has made it impossible for investors to invest in Bitcoin. It's nuts.
You believe we should be adopting cryptocurrency?
Not cryptocurrency. I'm not saying we should be adopting. Everyone should own some Bitcoin, and the UK at the national level should have a strategic Bitcoin reserve.
Okay.
And we have it. We've got the third largest Bitcoin holding of any nation because they were confiscated from drug dealers early on in the career. But as soon as she can, Rachel Reeves is going to sell them. But no, that is a strategic asset, and we should keep it because it'll bail us out one day.
Absolutely.
Hungary sold its Bitcoins in 2017, and if it had kept its Bitcoin, Hungary could have cleared its entire national debt.
Bloody hell.
The Bitcoins it had confiscated. We could do something similar.
Absolutely.
But what are we doing selling it early?
Fascinating. It is out today. The Secret History of Gold, Myth, Money, Politics and Power by Dominic Frisby. Matt Ridley on the cover says it is a fabulous, fascinating, fantastical tale told with panache. And presumably, Dominic, available Amazon, hard copy, or all of that?
It's available at all good bookshops. Can I tell you one little story, Dan?
Please.
So I'm holding up here. I'll hold it up to camera. You can see, actually, I'll hold up this one. So what I'm holding up here is a Victorian gold sovereign. And you can see it's nice and shiny.
Yes.
And that was the old pound coin. It now takes £650 coins to buy the old pound coin.
My God.
That's how much money has been debased by. But gold is not just older than the Earth itself, it's older than the solar system. That's how old this is. And it never loses its shine. How about that?
Absolutely beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Wonderful point to end on. Dominic Frisby, congratulations on the book. Thank you for being on Outspoken. Please come back again. Really enjoyed it. Thank you so much. And we're about to reveal today's Greatest Britain and Union Jackass. At the end of the show, by the way, stay tuned because we will be putting head-to-head on YouTube the worst Britons in the world this week for you to vote for. But first to your super chats. Thank you, Alex Marmon, who says Rylan Clark spoke for so many British people on Woke ITV and said only facts. If he loses his TV career for telling the truth, that will be a disgrace. And Private Jose, thank you for the super chat on the whole issue of whether it's possible. This is the whole Matt Goodwin argument. It's impossible for Ben Habib to do something. He says it's not impossible. Trump did it. Italy did it. Poland has done it. Sign up to Advance UK now. And Didi asked, Dan, thank you for the super chat, Didi. Will you be speaking on September the 13th? Do you know, Tommy asked me actually, which was so lovely. But no, because I view my role as a reporter and as someone who is going to be covering the news and the events from that day. So no, I'm not, but obviously I am going to be covering the event. And welcome, by the way, to Charles Birchall and Peter Buston, who have joined Outspoken Plus over the course of today too. Okay, to your nominees for Union Jackass today. Tom Bradby, nominated by Darren Donaldson for calling the trans Catholic shooter far right. He says the MSM is already dead. Nadia Sawala, nominated by ScottFly232, clear retaliation against Ryland's common sense, levelling the woke back out on ITV, woke damage control, he calls it. And Ed Davey, nominated by Drew59Blue, if you have no policies, you ride a hobby horse around a garden for publicity, you even disrespect your sovereign by refusing to attend the state banquet, again for publicity. Don't forget the clown Ed Davey, who says his conscience won't let him attend, shafted our postmasters. So very good nominees there. And here are the results. In third position, Tom Bradby. The runner-up with 19% of the vote. The runner-up with 30% of the vote, Ed Davey. But today's Union Jackass with a majority decision. 51% of you going for Nadia Sawalha as Union Jackass. Okay, this is going to be really interesting because let me just remind you of who is going to be up for the worst Britain in the world this week. From Monday, it was Narinder Kaur. From Tuesday, it was Femi Olawale. From Wednesday, Jess Phillips. From Thursday, your winner today, Nadia Sawalha. So what I'm going to do straight after the show, the moment I finish, I'm going to post the poll in our post section on YouTube. We get tens of thousands of votes every week. So just wait around about 5 minutes and I will have it up and you can get voting and the winner will be announced on tomorrow's show. But today's greatest Briton is Tommy Robinson, nominated by Matt Cass 48. No charges against Tommy. Why isn't the person who attacked Tommy facing charges? And why has he not been named? Perhaps he's another member of the Labour Party who's being protected. Okay, we're moving on to Substack now for a fascinating show. Was Princess Diana really murdered? That's the astonishing claim from Tom Sykes, European editor-at-large of the Daily Beast, author of the brilliant new Substack, The Royalist. He is going to join me to reveal all. You can watch at www.outspoken.live. So at this stage, we come off YouTube and Rumble and we move to Substack to continue the conversation. By the way, a little note, please do subscribe to Dan Wootton Outspoken as a podcast. We're now available as a podcast on Spotify. You get us as a video podcast, but it's really excellent if you can subscribe and rate and review because that really helps me. So you just search for Outspoken, Dan Wootton Outspoken, wherever you get your podcasts. Please subscribe and rate and review. I would be ever so grateful. Okay, back tomorrow, 5 p.m. UK time, midday Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. Hit subscribe, turn on the notification bells, and most importantly, I promise to keep fighting for you.